For each rectangular equation, give the equivalent polar equation and sketch its graph. So first off, when we look at this x plus y equals 7, that's rectangular, and that's what we see here. And we're going to turn it into polar, and that's what's there. So what we need first is we actually need the equations. So this means here's my 4 equations, and the ones I'm going to use here are going to be these up here. Because I'm going to plug in r cos theta for x, and then r sin theta in for y. So this is what we get. So that's going to be for the x, r cos theta. Then I have a plus here. Then I have my y, which is r sin theta, and that equals 7. So now what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to now pull an r out of these. So that's going to be r. This is going to be cos theta plus sin theta, and that equals 7. So then what I'm going to do now to solve for r is I'm going to divide both sides by cosine theta plus sin theta. Like this. So then those cancel each other out, and I end up with r equals (7 over cosine theta plus sine of theta). So there it is. So that's what our first part asks us to do, is to find this equation here. So now what we're supposed to do with this is we're supposed to sketch it now. So now that's what we're going to do. So in order to sketch this thing, we're going to do an r theta table, because that's going to be the only way to actually do this. So when we don't understand graphs or how they actually work at all, that's what we do. So here's our table. So now the values I'm going to pick for theta are going to be 0, and I'm just going to go by pi fourths. So that means 0, pi fourths, pi halves, 3 pi fourths, pi, 5 pi fourths, 3 pi halves, 7 pi halves, and 2 pi. So I'm just going to run through all the values of this. So I'll do the first one to kind of show you what I'm actually doing here. So then for the first one, I'm just plugging in 0 for theta here. So it'll be 7 over cosine of 0 plus sine of 0. Oops, not theta. 0. So the cosine of 0 is 1. The sine of 0 is 0. So this turns out to be 7 over 1, which is 7. So that's going to be our first answer, 7. So I'm just going to run through the rest of these and put down the values for them. All right, so now looking at all these values, notice I used decimals because I have to graph these. So those exact answers aren't going to be really helpful here, because how do I graph a square root of 2? So again, I want to write the decimal approximations for all the r values. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to graph them. So now when I graph the first one here, and remember my ordered pair is the 7, 0, that's how I'd read that, because my ordered pairs are theta. So that's kind of the idea here. So it's going to be 0, 7, but, or 7, 0. But keep this in mind also, that I usually graph the angle first. So this is my 0 degrees here, and then it says I go out 7. Okay, so that's going to be here. And then my next point at pi fourths is 4.95. So that's going to be the r. I go out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is going to be there. So 4.95. So it's actually probably further out even than that. Should be about right there. Okay, maybe even tighter. And then my next point at pi halves is going to be 7. So that's going to be up here. Okay, so there's that one. And then my next one says error. So that tells me it's undefined there. That simply told me that I got a 0 down here on the bottom. So that one's not going to work. So at 3 pi fourths, which would have been here, tells me it's undefined. Okay, so now where I'm going is to pi. So pi is over here. And then it says -7. So that takes me back to my first point. So then at so then at 5 pi fourths, which is down here, so there's my 5 pi fourths, it's -4.95, so it takes me back there. And then my next one's going to be 3 pi halves, which is here, and it takes me to -7, which is here. So what's happening here is I continue to go back to those 3 points. So in essence, that is my picture. So my line it's actually going to be a line here, and it's going to be this line. So now if you look at the line I drew here, and you think about where we started at with this x plus y equals 7, if I put that in slope-intercept form, that would be y equals -x plus 7. And if I graph that, my y-intercept's going to be at +7. Then I go down 1 and over 1, and when I went down 7, I'd be here. Down 7 and over 7 because my slope is 1. So that would show you that this is the same line. So it's very nice how that comes out. But again, it also gives us the idea of actually how to graph. So again, I picked some nice angle values, and I use decimal approximations for these because I'm graphing them. And then in essence, I just kind of go around the circle here with the different angles. And then I go out our distance, which is the radius. So there's our problem. Those are the answers. So the answers for this one then are this graph here. That's the second answer because it says sketch it. And then my first one was right here, finding the equation.